God's blessings to everyone. This is a DGHradio.com news and information update for Saturday, October 11th, 2025. I'm DKS, covering the latest developments from across the United States Virgin Islands. Power and pocketbooks lead today's rundown. The Virgin Islands Water and Power Authority's leadership faced pointed questions from senators over its proposed budget and a potential increase to the Levelized Energy Adjustment Clause. Lawmakers pressed for a clearer path to reliability that doesn't keep shifting more costs onto families and small businesses. WAPA's team said the request reflects fuel price volatility, aging plants, and the need to stabilize day-to-day operations while long-term projects come online. Committee members withheld a vote and asked for a tighter spending breakdown, firmer milestones, and a plan to reduce outstanding receivables, especially debts owed by government entities. At the same time, WAPA says physical upgrades are accelerating. Crews are replacing older wooden poles with composite standards, better suited for high winds, advancing selective undergrounding, and sequencing battery storage to ride through short-term disturbances. On St. Thomas, interim fixes are underway along a problem segment of Feeder 13 while permanent work advances. St. Croix's focus includes the Richmond plant rebuild, and St. John is slated for a Coral Bay storage system designed to keep critical circuits energized when the wider grid is unstable. The utility says these steps are aimed at fewer emergency repairs, faster restoration after storms, and a smoother runway for solar additions in the next 2 to 3 years. Transportation is poised for a seasonal lift. The Virgin Islands Port Authority has outlined an expanded ferry schedule between Red Hook and Cruz Bay starting in early November, with 2 more weekday round trips and 3 more on weekends. Early first departures and near midnight returns are intended to help commuters, hospitality workers, and late evening event goers. The Port Authority says it is working with franchise operators on staffing and vessel readiness and exploring online ticketing and real-time tracking to shorten lines and reduce uncertainty. For now, fares are expected to remain unchanged at launch. But ferries connect to a bigger debate. VIPA's proposed fee increases. At recent community sessions, charter captains, small marine firms, and daily commuters warned that steep jumps in docking, passenger, and parking fees could ripple through the maritime economy. VIPA argues the territory needs revenue to dredge harbors, modernize terminals in Red Hook and Cruz Bay, replace aging cranes, and reconfigure cargo areas. Leaders say feedback will shape any final structure and that a phased approach is under consideration to balance infrastructure needs with affordability. Public safety now. On St. Croix, detectives arrested a 24-year-old suspect linked to an armed robbery at a Frederiksted business earlier this week. Investigators credited witness statements and nearby surveillance footage for the quick identification and a warrant executed without incident in the Williams Delight area. Charges include first-degree robbery, unlawful firearm possession, and grand larceny. The police commissioner urged businesses to maintain high-quality cameras and lighting, noting the role video evidence played in the arrest. Meanwhile, on St. Thomas, a woman accused of taking a friend's car without permission was arrested after a hit-and-run that critically injured a pedestrian near a restaurant. The victim was airlifted off island for emergency care. Police remind drivers, if a collision happens, call 911 and remain on scene. Leaving adds criminal exposure and endangers neighbors. Health and wellness are getting a push. The Department of Health has launched VI Moves, a territory-wide initiative to help residents weave more activity into everyday routines. Expect walking clubs, dance fitness classes, and community sports through partnerships with schools, churches, and civic groups, plus public messages emphasizing simple steps like family walks, using stairs, and making the most of island trails and beaches. With chronic conditions such as hypertension, diabetes, and heart disease affecting many households, the department will track participation and selected health metrics over the next year to gauge impact. On the roads, Government House delivered a status report on federally funded projects on St. Thomas. These aren't just repaving jobs. Many corridors require new drainage, retaining walls, and utility conduits to reduce washouts and shorten post-storm recovery. Work on Veterans Drive remains a centerpiece with additional repairs in Savane and Mafoli. Officials acknowledge detours and delays but say tighter coordination among public works, contractors, and utilities should limit the need to cut into freshly paved streets for separate projects. Residents are encouraged to watch official notices for closures and milestones. Education headlines. Teachers on St. Croix met at the university's Research and Technology Park to refine a high school curriculum linking territorial status, economic development, and community health. The lessons incorporate local case studies, student-led research, and civic action projects to help learners analyze how governance and industry shape daily life, from job creation and cost of living to environmental stewardship and public health. Participants report strong engagement and plan further sessions to share classroom strategies. School facilities remain under scrutiny after students and staff at Bertha C. Boschulte Middle School staged a demonstration over failing air conditioning and roof leaks that create hot, damp classrooms. The Bureau of School Construction and Maintenance cites heavy demand on a small team responsible for hundreds of units, but says additional repairs and deep cleaning are underway, with larger modernization work scheduled during school breaks when contractors can operate at scale. In Justice and Accountability, a wrongful death lawsuit has been filed over the January death of a man found outside Governor Juan F. Luis Hospital on St. Croix after a long wait for emergency care. The complaint alleges failures in procedures, supervision, and treatment, and it's likely to refocus attention on staffing, triage, and quality control practices. The case adds to ongoing public concern over emergency department capacity and response times. Economic governance saw the Economic Development Commission review compliance cases for beneficiary firms. In some instances, the board allowed narrowly tailored remediation, such as making up a missed educational donation in the next cycle, while in others it required corrective actions tied to workforce benefits or community contributions. Officials say consistent enforcement helps maintain public trust in tax incentive programs while ensuring promised benefits reach the community. Food security took the spotlight at a St. Croix town hall hosted by the Food and Farm Council. Leaders highlighted progress on the territory's agriculture plan, expanding school-based agricultural educators from a handful to several dozen, creating business support hubs on each island, and sharpening data collection to guide grants and training. With the territory importing the vast majority of its food, the Council says coordinated steps to grow local production can improve resilience, nutrition, and the economy. Similar meetings were held on St. Thomas, with another scheduled on St. John later this month. Workforce development is gaining momentum as the government's Financial Fellows Program graduated its third cohort and prepared to onboard the next. The 2-year paid rotation places recent graduates into finance roles across agencies every few months, blending coursework, mentorship, and hands-on experience to build a pipeline of local talent for public service. On the legislative front, 2 high-profile measures, one to restrict certain firearms and accessories and another to regulate specific hemp-derived compounds, were sent back to committee for further revisions after procedural disputes and weeks of public input. Sponsors say they're incorporating feedback on legal, health, and rights concerns ahead of a rescheduled hearing. In separate action, a slate of bills to bolster protections for seniors, improve roadway safety, update training standards for private guards, and revise container fees advanced unanimously out of committee to the full Senate. Development law remains in the conversation on St. John. A recent legal opinion regarding the summer's end marina clarifies that the 1-year start work clock for the coastal zone permit begins only after all required federal approvals are secured. Officials emphasize the opinion doesn't authorize construction. It defines timing under local law for permits dependent on federal processes. Supporters say clarity helps standardize permitting. Critics continue to raise environmental and community concerns that will be addressed through separate reviews. Community and culture close us out. Fort Christian is debuting a haunted history experience that mixes folklore with documented events, offering weekday tours that include normally restricted spaces and a deeper dive into the site's centuries as a prison and civic landmark. And at Megan's Bay, Tunes and Tacos returns to raise funds for Nana Baby Children's Home, the 24/7 emergency shelter for young children on St. Thomas, with a friendly taco competition spanning savory, plant-based, and dessert entries, live bands, and a silent auction. Proceeds will sustain current programs and help launch new services for teens who currently have very limited emergency options. Weather brief. As Tropical Storm Jerry tracks well to the northeast, the U.S. Virgin Islands can expect bouts of heavy rain, gusty winds, and hazardous marine conditions through the weekend. Rip currents remain a concern on exposed coasts, and seas will be rough for small craft. Secure loose items, avoid flooded roadways, and check official updates before heading to the water. These and other issues are of great concern within the islands. What do you think are some good solutions? Let us know your thoughts by texting your comments to 1-315-898-1449. You can also join our WhatsApp group and get the news, weather, and other insightful information delivered right to your smartphone. To join, text JOIN to 1-315-898-1449. Please include your name in the text message. You will receive a call to verify your request. I'm your reporter, DKS, signing off for DGHradio.com. Remember, on DGHradio.com, the news never sleeps. Ciao.